Well, I'm pleased to report that our next guest's much delayed Halifax Theatre tour date is finally happening this month in 2023. James Mullinger is an award-winning British comedian who now lives in Canada, of course, in New Brunswick, and he's coming back to Halifax this month. He's going to take the stage at the Neptune Theatre Saturday, January 21st. After publishing his best-selling memoir, Brit Happens, Living the Canadian Dream, he's also created his own magazine here, celebrating Atlantic Canada, and created and starred in New Brunswick's first ever sitcom, they tell me, as well. So he's back on the road now with a full-length stand-up show, sharing what he has learned about this special place over the past decade. And I said to James before he came up live, I could be at the merch table. I've got the book in my hands this morning. I got posters at my desk. We got tickets here as well. As we say good morning and Happy New Year to one of our favorites, James Mullinger. How you doing, sir?
Doing great. It is wonderful to start this beautiful new year with you, Paul. Love you, mate.
That's awesome. Right back at you, man. I just noticed, too, when you're buying tickets, it says recommended for ages 12 and up. Babes in arms and children under 4 not permitted in the theater. Have you ever been to a show where there was babes in arms at one of your performances?
Actually, yes. And funnily enough, the clip that you just showed from the Imperial Theatre in St. John last March, there was indeed a babe in arms. And she woke up a few times, screamed a little bit, and I got her involved in the show. And I love the fact that her first ever experience of stand-up comedy was mine. I toned down the F-bombs a bit once I realized she was in the room. No one wants that responsibility.
Well, you know, I was looking for what we would call a sound up on live television, where we play a clip of some of your shows, and I'm like, no, can't play that clip. No, can't play that. No, can't play that. So it is recommended for ages 12 and up. Tell us about the show that you're going to play on Neptune, finally happening, right?
Yeah, can't believe it's finally happening 2 years later. And again, for a performer in Atlantic Canada to play the Neptune Theatre is kind of like playing Broadway. I mean, it's one of the most beautiful theatres, not only in the region but in the country. The productions that they put on are world class, so it feels a really, really big deal to be playing that stage. And the show really is a celebration of everything I love about this country. It's my 10th year living in Canada, so I thought, well, it's time to take a show on the road. My first time kind of doing a full tour as a new Canadian and really highlighting everything that I've learned. But also, of course, I mean, now that I actually do hold a Canadian passport, I can say what I really think without fear of being deported. So in some ways, this is the tour where the gloves are off, Paul.
So listen, 10 years living in Canada, what have you learned about this special place, good or bad, I suppose?
Well, I mean, one of the best things is, of course, we're going into the season right now of ice fishing, which, is something which could only be invented by Canadian men too afraid to tell their wives that they're going to go and sit and drink in the shed all day. So instead, it's, I'm going to go ice fishing. And basically, it's sitting in a shack on a frozen river, drinking all day. I think that's a beautiful thing. And I mean, there's so many things that I love about this place. I mean, the fact that it's the second biggest country in the world, but feels like the smallest village sometimes. And we all feel this when we travel across the country and you meet other Maritimers in the most kind of obscure and random places. And I love the fact that what you've managed to do is take this ginormous landmass, but make it feel like a village where people look out for each other, people care for each other. And you feel that same love and that community spirit in small towns and big cities across the country. And that is not something that is replicated in a small island like the UK.
Yeah. I want to ask you this, because I just finished Rick Mercer's memoir, Talking to Canadians, and a big chunk of that is when he used to go south and do the Talking to Americans bit, which of course was wildly successful. But he wasn't one of them. He was kind of, taking advantage of, I guess we'll say, some of their lack of knowledge about what we are as Canadians. And I mean, it was hilarious. But for you, when you are, you are a Canadian now, as you say, where is the line between making fun of and then, making sure not to offend Canadians when you go to small towns?
That's an excellent question, and I mean, one of the fascinating things, of course, about doing the citizenship test is, of course, that only now do I, having passed the citizenship test, realize that these questions I had to learn the answers to, no Canadian actually knows. So maybe my show could also function as educational. But it's an excellent question, because obviously when I moved here, I was essentially a fish out of water, which is a dream position to be in for a comedian. Our job is to notice things, and how better to notice things when you are in a place that isn't the place that you were born or grew up. But I think Canadians have an inherent and very beautiful way of being able to laugh at themselves. And I've, I mean, obviously everything I do and everything in my comedy is born out of a love of this place. And I think people are able to kind of see that. But I think in the UK, a bit more. There's a bit more kind of risk of people getting their back put up. If you make a joke about a place, people take offense at it. But again, I think people are very, very intelligent across this country and able to see when you are making a joke out of love. And I've really never had any kind of issue where people have taken something I've said to heart. And also, I guess the other thing is that I was a person who had moved here, and I think that's kind of quite crucial to it, is that when I would, would a performer who was coming into, the Maritimes for one night or a few nights poking fun at it, would it go down as well? I'm not sure. But again, every joke I've ever made about the Maritimes, or indeed Canada, is born out of a love and a passion for the community spirit here and the people here. So I think that translates, and I think people are kind of, very amenable to hearing that.
Yeah, people across Canada love you too as well, and you're going to be coming to Halifax to crack some jokes coming up. How can people get tickets for the show here in our city and across the Maritimes?
From the Neptune Theatre website. Oh, sorry, beg your pardon.
Yep.
From the Neptune Theatre website, and then the other tour dates are all on my website as well, jamesmullinger.com. But yeah, I'm taking the show to every province across Canada. So it's an exciting time to be, I'm trying to write a new show, write a second book, and then of course we're gearing up to release the sitcom in March. So it's a busy time, but I wouldn't have it any other way.
All right, we'll have you back on in March to talk about the sitcom for sure. I want to find out more about that. Hey, listen, Happy New Year once again. We'll see you when you come back to Halifax, sir. Have a great day.
Thanks so much, Paul. You too, mate. Cheers. Happy New Year.
One of our faves, James Mullinger on Global News Morning.